係大家好啊，我係 Hi Andy 啊 ，Race Bong 啊。咁今次我哋就訪問 Soundsmith 唱頭嘅老闆啦。咁啊，Mr. Peter，係 Peter，
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Could you please introduce your new product?
I'd be happy to. I'll tell you first, if you like, a little bit about myself. I've been involved in audio for over 40 years, designing loudspeakers, amplifiers, preamplifiers, and phono cartridges. We work with Richcone Corp here in Hong Kong and in China. They import my phono cartridges. And all of our products are made in New York, in the United States. And we make very unusual phono cartridges. Phono cartridges have not had much of an evolution or advancement over the last 30 years because vinyl took a very serious decline starting 30 years ago with the advent of the CD. But my company has still been advancing phono cartridges. One of the enemies of performance of a phono cartridge is the mass. In a normal phono cartridge, you have a cantilever and a stylus, and you have a mass back here that you have to move to generate a voltage. So there are three kinds of magnetic cartridges: moving magnet, moving coil, and moving iron. Most of the industry is dominated by moving coil. Now, moving coils haven't changed much in 30 years. What we make are moving iron cartridges, or variable reluctance, or induced magnet. The advantage of that is you can make the magnet large and the coils large, but the iron that moves in between can be very, very small, very low mass. When you do that, you don't store a lot of energy or inertia in the mass, so it doesn't reflect back down and cause the stylus to jitter or bang in the groove. And that's terribly important. It's important when you design a cartridge correctly that the stylus stays in constant or intimate contact with the groove wall. If you're not staying in constant contact with the groove wall, you can't hear what's on the record. You're just taking samples, like digital samples, of what's on the record. So we've made a lot of advances in reducing this mass 5 times over a moving coil, with a concomitant improvement in performance. I've also looked at the material that's used for this cantilever. Historically, aluminum, ruby, sapphire, boron, other ceramics are used, and each material has its advantages, but each material also has serious disadvantages. Recently, one of the things we've come up with is using an organic cantilever. This is a cantilever made from a cactus spine, and it has dualistic properties. It's very rigid, but it also absorbs frequencies above a certain amount, above a certain frequency, 30 or 35 kilohertz. If any energy tries to get up or down above 35 kilohertz, it gets turned into heat, just like the shock absorber in your car turns one form of energy into another. It turns the movement or compression into heat. Energy above 35 kilohertz gets turned into heat in the cactus spine. And the beauty of that is the reflected energy from the moving mass doesn't make it back down to the tip. That's very important. That allows the stylus to stay very much in contact with the groove wall. So all of our designs are really intended to give you very, very accurate, true reading of what's in the record groove. Now, we also make a very novel cartridge called a strain gauge cartridge. This is not a magnetic cartridge. This is a semiconductor cartridge. And there are many advantages to building a cartridge with this technology. I mentioned that all magnetic cartridges have a cantilever and a stylus and a mass that you have to move. In the strain gauge, this mass is gone, doesn't exist. So this has an 80 or 90% reduction of mass over every other cartridge, every other moving coil cartridge, and much less than our moving iron cartridges. So it's extremely fast, it's very accurate. There's almost no stored energy, so no reflected energy, and the result is that it is called by many reviewers the world's most accurate phono cartridge. Now, it doesn't generate a voltage, so you have to feed voltage into the cartridge. That's why you see it's lit up. There are LEDs inside the cartridge that tell you you have electricity flowing into the cartridge. And what the cartridge does is, as it plays the record, it modulates or varies the voltage. Now, this cartridge cannot be used with a conventional or standard phono preamp. So we make a series of phono preamps for the strain gauge. We make a basic unit here, our SG200. It has fixed outputs, so it's designed to be used with your system preamp. We make the next model up, the SG210, which has both fixed outputs and plus 15 dB variable output, so you can drive an amplifier directly with that. So if somebody wanted a vinyl-only system and they didn't want to buy a preamp, they could use a power amp with the SG210. Our top model is the SG230, and this is a full-function system preamp along with the specialized strain gauge preamp. So it has 4 line inputs and remote control. Now the strain gauge is sold as a system. We are the only ones in the world that make a strain gauge cartridge. So you get the cartridge and any one of the 3 preamps that you wish. The strain gauge also has a number of novel features. One of them is it's the only high-end cartridge in the world that has user-replaceable styli. So you can order it with more than one styli, and we make different kinds of styli for it as well. It has built-in auto-muting, which you can defeat, so when you come off the record, it goes silent. When you come down on the record, half a second later, the sound comes on. So very, very unique products. We also make some phono preamps that are very, very high quality, but fairly low cost. We save on the enclosure, and this allows people to move up into maybe a higher end cartridge. So by using one of our preamps and a Soundsmith cartridge, they can get really good vinyl performance. Let me add one other thing. We are the only cartridge manufacturer in the world that rebuilds our own cartridges, and we do so for only 20% of what the cartridge sold for. This is important. It means if you buy into a Soundsmith cartridge, when it wears out or if you have an accident, which happens with cartridges, it can be fully rebuilt for 20%. And we can do this multiple times. So what this means over many years, a Soundsmith cartridge is an extremely good investment. Your cost of use over many years goes way down. So again, very unique cartridges, and Rich Cohn is very courageous or brave because they are introducing a completely different set of technologies into China and Hong Kong, where people are used to moving coil. They don't know about moving iron or the strain gauge. And Rich Cohn is spreading the word that there's a very unique technology that can outperform other types of cartridges.
Okay. Thank you, your interview. Yes.
You're very, very welcome. Nice to meet you.
Yes, nice to meet you.